All right, here we go. It's Tuesday morning, March 31st. I'm going to go as fast as I can, so I'm going to talk pretty fast, so you might want to listen to this more than once. Although listening to my gravelly voice probably isn't something you want to do more than once. But the 1960s are pretty interesting in my book decade. Number one, we have three presidents that served during this decade. 1960 election is JFK. He wins. New Frontier is his agenda. There's tons of things that he wants to get done for America. He has his famous speech. Ask not what America can do for you, but what you can do for America. He is assassinated on 11/22/1963. Lyndon Johnson, who is his vice president. Interesting story about Lyndon Johnson. Uh, could go on, but Johnson was a school teacher, became interested in politics, was a very influential leader on Capitol Hill for many years. Uh, Without Johnson, Kennedy doesn't become elected because Kennedy needed the Southern vote because Kennedy was the first non-Protestant president in United States history to become elected president of the United States. On 11/22/1963, when Kennedy is assassinated in Dallas, Texas, Lyndon Johnson is sworn in as the president of the United States on Air Force One at Love Field in Dallas, Texas. His agenda and platform then becomes the Great Society. He's going to do lots and lots of things. Lyndon Johnson gets more things done in a short period of time. He serves as president from 63 to 68. He decides he's not going to run for president again. It's just not something in his wheelhouse that he wants to do. Richard Nixon, who has been not involved in major politics, who had been the vice president of the United States and from 52 to 60 under Eisenhower, thought he was going to win in 1960. Didn't happen he's back on the scene. Long story short, he ends up back on the scene and running against the vice president of the United States, Hubert Humphrey from Minnesota. He beats Humphrey, becomes the president. So there's our three presidents. The civil rights movement continues into the 60s. There are legislations passed, Civil Rights Act of 1964, Civil Rights Act of 1965, so on and on. There have been improvements, but oh my, you get it. Okay, Vietnam War. We send some military advisors to Vietnam, and they're supposed to report back to the president. The president gets information. We decide to get involved in the Vietnam War. And we enact the draft. We have draft dodgers. We have assassinations of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. We have the assassination of not just JFK on 11/22/63, but we also have assassinations of other people in the United States besides those three big leaders right there that I mentioned. Okay, fashion is humongous, um, huge changes. Mini skirts, go-go boots, all of those kind of things that I remember the 60s very well. I grew up on a college, or not grew up, but I spent my fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh grade years um, on a college campus as my mother was going to college and running the streets and the campus. There was so many things. Hippies, the hippie movement, peace, love, uh, rock and roll music changed. So the music industry changes. Society begins to change greatly. Um, Nixon wins the election of 68. We have men landing on the moon. We have Woodstock. All of those things. Those are just some simple highlights. There's so many things that happened. A couple of other highlights in the 60s. The Vietnam War was so dramatic because the military added pesticides that were used on farms to fuel, napalm, Agent Orange, those kind of things begin to be used. Um, let's see. the draft, napalm, that, um, landing on the moon, Woodstock, the space race, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Bay of Pigs. Um, that's just to name a few things, okay? So there's, in 5 short minutes, what I usually spend about 3 weeks on getting in depth about. So your enrichment learning assignment for this week is to do a picture collage on whatever platform you choose, um, Google Slides, Canva, PictoChart, whatever it is, and then I'm going to drop in the assignment today. I want you to have it done by Friday because then we're going to do the 70s decade next week. I'll come back in here tomorrow and talk a little bit more about maybe the hippies and the draft and the first televised presidential debate in 1960 between Nixon and Kennedy. The fact that the Vietnam War is the first televised war. It came right into our living rooms for the first time. And I'll give you just a few minutes. I'll try not to be, Berg, 10 minutes turned into 40 kind of thing. But your assignment is to do that collage and or whatever you want to call it. And then have it posted in the assignments on Friday, please. And remember, this is enrichment learning, and I'm going to try to clarify that. I've been going almost 7 minutes, and I'm going to try to get it done in the next 60 seconds. Your grade cannot drop. The district has already told us that your grades are locked in from third quarter. Your grades can go up by completing this enrichment learning. This enrichment learning will be considered, if you want to consider it as extra credit, then you can look at it that way. That's maybe the simplest way to do it. And I'm going to bring you as much in a compact amount of time, as much of the fourth quarter things that as I can, because I want to get you to be thinking, because you're involved in a part of history right now that will hopefully you'll never see again in your lifetime. So there you go. Your enrichment learning. You can improve your grade by doing all of the things I'm going to ask you to do. Okay? I'm going to come on tomorrow and I'm going to explain a couple of other small things for you in a video that will be, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 minutes long. I can't. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background on what I said. I'll expand a little bit on Kennedy. I'll expand a little bit on the Great Society. You got the New Frontier, the Great Society, and then Nixon's platform that we'll talk about as well. And, Tricky coming back on the scene. And I'll talk a little bit about those elections and, maybe a little bit about Woodstock and all that good stuff. But don't get lost again. Your assignment or your enrichment learning assignment is to do a picture collage of at least 12 things depicting at least 12 different things that are major things that happened in the United States. Protests against Vietnam, protests still going on in the civil rights movement. All of those things. Welcome to Tuesday, March 31st. There it is. There you are. Go to work. I'm posting it in. Have a great day, y'all. Wish I could be in class seeing all y'all's faces.